So obviously they play opening day. We got to go. We're all there. You were there for a little bit before you left.
That was another can of worms.
Yeah. They beat VMI 11-8. I think the game was the score didn't indicate the it wasn't as close to the score
Indicated.
I think the opening day you had some opening day issues that you have. You have some jitters. You have Thatcher started out great, had the bad inning, and then he comes out. Ackenhausen kind of rights his ship, gives up a few runs, nothing crazy, but his line looks way better than it actually was. They gave up 3 runs, but he looked really good.
Was that all in the last inning?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ackenhausen, it's starting to, I feel like 60 pitches is about what you're getting from him.
Right.
From either last year and this year, it's kind of that seems to be the number.
He's a good swing guy. And so you had some really good things. Obviously, you had some of the guys in the lineup come up with some big hits. They drove some balls out of the ballpark. It was a great opening day. The rain kind of stayed away.
Which we will also preview.
What?
And
down. That's the other thing. We have some more swings. It was backed by popular demand.
Yes.
We had some requests that they liked the segment. They liked us doing that. We're gonna do that until maybe Jay or someone says don't do it anymore. So
I'm trying to figure out how to get people out.
Yeah, listen, we're not showing you anything we're only showing good stuff. We're not giving scouting reports, and we're not showing you anything that other teams can't see. Right? There's video cameras. There's things they can go and get their own stuff. So it's we're outing anything.
Houston Astros.
Yeah, it's in game. That's in game. I'm not. Maybe they're doing it. Maybe they are doing it. But the Friday game was good. The Friday game, I believe, was close. I got to bring up the box scores, but the back end, they gave up some runs towards, I think it was 11-4, 11-5, and they gave up some runs towards the back end. Jared, you nailed it. The over and the 6.5. You said you didn't like the 6.5.
Didn't like it.
You would have won.
I said it the wrong way, I think, the first time. And then I said it, if I was a betting man, I'd go that way. One of the ways is the way I said it.
You were right, because I remember we were.
No, you said you like the overruns, but you don't like the run line of 6.5.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
And you're right.
Because I did both, so just kind of a bit of a wash there.
You did both.
I put the bet in before I went to Paw Court, and then you had to go outside against the houseboat to get service to be able to gamble, and then you couldn't even watch the game.
That's tough, man. They didn't have the houseboat set up ready for that. You got to have internet. You got to have TV in there. There's no TV in there at all.
No, there was a TV, but it didn't have any cable.
So there's no generator, nothing? So you don't have heat?
We had fire.
Inside the houseboat?
No, there was air conditioning and a heat, but there was no connection to cable.
Nobody had a
laptop, but then you couldn't get internet.
Nobody had a
no modem,
wireless hotspot on the phone.
Well, you didn't get enough service.
Oh yeah, that's
it's
tough.
A fucking disaster.
That is a disaster.
Well, you boys are out there. Huh?
A whole lot of getting to know you.
That is a disaster.
Playing beer pong in the wind, a blast.
That's got to be very hard.
Flip cup in the wind, a blast.
I can imagine.
Couldn't even fish the first day we were there because it was too windy. You can't even get back. They were you can't go fish. You can't rent a kayak if you wanted to. I was not. I don't even have a fisherman's.
Did you have someone manning the grill at least?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so someone's on the grill at all times, cooking, doing whatever. Do you have, extracurriculars for y'all to hang out and, make things more fun?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I tried to set up, a challenge scenario where, we pick teams and, I tried to do that, but then it was just
a drinking Olympics type thing?
Yeah, and it all just fell
That's
to
okay.
shit. But it was okay. It was fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Wish I could have watched the baseball team.
And that's why we're here.
Exactly. Learn me
the
something.
most impressive thing out of game one, right? You always want to take out, okay, what was your biggest takeaway from game to game? And look, Justin Lower looked really good. I liked the way he looked. Gavin Guidry, he did what he needed to do. I think for me, the most impressive player I saw out of game one was Gage Jump. Gage Jump was 95, 97 from the left side, threw an inning, closed the game out, struck out 2. Jay's going to bring him along slowly. He will be in the rotation at some point this year.
Yeah. I think he's on what we thought was Thatcher's plan last year, right? So as long as he can continue progressing physically and getting the innings and all of that stuff under his belt, I would imagine he's going to get into the rotation. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't that unimpressed with Thatcher's start. He may just be, whether you like it, love it, hate it, or whatever it is, I guess we would all love to be fast starters. He may just be a slow starter. If I remember correctly, last year, he had actual problems throwing strikes to start the year.
Right.
And that kind of snowballed a little bit until he had that one really bad outing, and then it all turned around from that spot, right? This year, that wasn't the case. He just got hit around a little bit, but we're forgetting that that's the same lineup that hit 320 as a team last year, right? They had a good hitting lineup. You can call them whatever you want. Baseball's still baseball, and it's still got to come over the plate, right? They swung the bat well last year, and that's obviously carried over a little bit into this year. So I'm really, really, really going to have eyes on how Thatcher throws going forward, but he may just be somewhat of a slow starter, and that's okay because I don't really care about having you hot in February.
Agreed. 100%.
Shocking that VMI is the number 5 offense in the country last year.
We missed that. We
missed that. So, we didn't even speak about that. Yeah.
Well, we did talk about their offense before. We talked about them.
We did, but we didn't speak about that part of it. We didn't speak that they were that highly rated.
Right.
We just said, they hit 320. We were like, hey,
I know
you say what you want.
Yeah,
they were the 5th rated offense in the country last year.
Right.
And brought back a good bit of their roster.
Yeah. And the swings I saw, I'm going to be honest with you, they were not cheap swings. They were not cheap hits. Boys swung the bat well, and they hit balls hard.
They did.
Respect to the service academies.
No doubt. Listen, that was the thing. The big separator between elite teams and teams that can just sneak up on you.
This is at all levels. This is at all levels of baseball.
Levels.
Please say it.
All levels of baseball. I'm not saying it's easy to hit, because it's not. But it's easier to find people who can hit. There's more of those out there than the elite arms. Yeah. That's why pitchers get paid so much. That's why they're such a hot commodity in the draft. And so the elite teams have a lot more pitchers in their rotation on their staff to throw out there.
Pitchers are kind of like O linemen, if you will. Kind of like D linemen, if you will. I don't give a damn what kind of skill position players you got. If we ain't got the big boys to push you around up front, we're not going to score the rock, or we're not going to stop you from scoring the rock.
Exactly.
So, the same thing.
Exactly, right? And so, that's the big
separator.
The separator between these elite teams and these other teams, right? They may have one guy that can go out there and maybe compete on the mound, but everybody's got to be perfect on the mound. That's the difference. So, VMI was a good test for our staff, and then you go to game 2, right? I'm going to go through there's 4 of them. We'll go through all of them, and then we'll take questions and just recap them all. Game 2 was against Central Arkansas. Central Arkansas played LSU tough both games. Both games were tight. The first game they played was very miserable to play in. Those were the typical February.
Coach, I'm going to tell you what. I got up Saturday morning.
I had tickets. We didn't want to go.
I got up Saturday morning, regular routine. Was like, let me go make this coffee. Open my balcony door. I was like, man, let me blow my nose because I'm all stopped up. And as soon as I opened the door, I opened the door and I go, hell no, I ain't going out there today.
Miserable.
You already know. It's like one of them days where it's like, oh, it's so pretty. Look at it. But then you sit out there. You're not the guy that's moving. You sit out there for 45 minutes and you're like, no, sir, I'm out. This is terrible. This feels awful. That's what it felt like, Sal.
I was
miserable.
Out there.
What?
Awful.
Well, you were fishing.
Well, you were going back from the houseboat to the camper, so I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
That was it was miserable, but
Terrible uniforms for Central Arkansas.
Yeah, not great. I'm sure the budget isn't the same.
How would you know? You didn't see it.
I saw a picture.
You saw pictures? There you go. I'll picture it.
Cracked open the newspaper.
With that weather and the 20-mile-an-hour gust of wind, it's very hard. You knew it was going to be a low-scoring game. And you had Luke Holman on the mound. Everybody wanted to see how Luke Holman was going to do. 5 1/3, 10 strikeouts.
As advertised.
3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, lights out, right? Threw really well, lived in the top of the zone with I think he had 4 or 5 strikeouts on elevated heaters. Had total control of everything he wanted to do. So he goes out there and puts up a goose egg. Griffin Herring follows him, throws an inning, walks 3 guys, doesn't give up any runs though. Okay? And then this next guy, I'm going to highlight twice in 2 games. In both games he pitched were the closest games of the weekend. Both against Central Arkansas and both in big moments. Fidel Ulloa.
Would you say that's also kind of a indicator on where Jay is probably thinking he could probably fit
Yes.
into this bullpen situation?
Yes. So this guy's his first 2 appearances at LSU were both in back ends of close games. He threw an inning in the third, gave up 1 hit, struck out 3, walked 1, no runs. Right? This is in game 2 when the final score was 2-0. So LSU shut him out. They only scored 2 runs, and so you can't make many mistakes on the mound. He shoves. DJ Primo, who also threw again today, threw a third of an inning, and that was it. Took him out. And then Sam Dutton, who's
Slammer.
another name who I think
Sneaky.
they
Sam.
are very happy and very excited with him because they feel like he's kind of ticked up velo. He's always been able to throw strikes, but his velo's ticked up. He came in this game, threw 1 inning, got the save, struck out 2 in the 9th, right? So 2-0 game, I think that to me is something to look at and say, okay, that's a good first test. Bad weather, tough conditions, not going to outscore these guys. Those are games that you can easily get away and lose a little bit of focus and get these guys on base, and a bloop single scores 2, and it's a tie game, and they end up winning.
Great to have Fidel in the Cold War.
Here we go.
Wow.
Here we go. I didn't think
Nuanced.
we said it before the show that this wasn't going to take him long to do something, and I didn't think it would be this quick.
That's where he decided to actually hop into the show today.
That was it, huh?
Only thing I knew about
He's
the
literally
weekend.
just been working the fingers, and he finally turns his microphone on, and that's the first thing he says today.
That was it. Hey, listen. So I enjoyed this game because it was something that you don't usually see early on in the year. You saw a couple guys that maybe you weren't expecting to see on the mound do what they needed to do. And then there's one guy that we mentioned on Wednesday when we were talking about the depth of the infield. And that person is
Monster.
What?
Monster.
Well, they call him Monster. He's not a monster. He's
Tell him-
5'8",
Tell him that.
but he thinks he's a monster. His name is Steven Milam, switch hitter, infielder.
Dog.
Love his swing. Love his swing. Love the way he looks at the plate. And he goes 1 for 1 with 2 walks in the second game, right? And so you're like, oh, man, I really like the way he looked. Is he gonna stick with him? And boy, did he stick with him. Played him again on Sunday, where LSU won 27-5 on Sunday. So that's not, and what are we going to talk about that one? Like, that was just kind of got blown out. I mean,
How did that happen?
They scored 27 runs.
I know, but just like,
They touched the plate 27 times.
but what is it, like home runs? Or
Well,
just
they also had 20-something hits.
Yeah,
I would
so
imagine.
some home runs. Brady Neal hit a grand slam. Milam went 4 for 6 in the leadoff spot in that game. Tommy White hit 2-hole, went 2 for 3. Travinsky went 3 for 5. Brady Neal went 3 for 3 with 6 RBIs in the grand slam, 2 doubles. So that's how they scored 27 runs. Everybody played. Like, everybody. I'm pretty sure everybody that was able to get in that bat got in that bat.
Everybody hits, everybody scores.
That's it. Javen Coleman started that game, threw 3 innings, struck out 3, walked 2. This is the game Cam Johnson had made his debut. Wasn't great. First game jitters. Listen, first time out there. Weather's not ideal. He's a freshman. He's trying to make an impact. Couldn't find the strike zone.
I'm not going to give him as many excuses, but
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, like, you're here at this time. You're here. Like, this
Right.
is the time where you step up and you get judged just like anybody else, right? Freshman, yes. The rest of it, no. He expects better. Jay expects better. Everybody on that staff
Yep.
expects better, and
No
I'm
doubt.
sure we're gonna get better from him.
Right.
So we'll just see.
First outing, 1 inning, 4 runs, 4 earned, 6
Oh.
walks. 6 walks. So he's got electric stuff. His fastball is something that moves in the same rate as a right-handed sweeping slider does. But there's a fastball from the left side, so like same movement, which is very hard to control, but also very nasty when you can't control it. And look, first outing, not great. If there was one thing that we could talk about this game is they had 12 walks. LSU had 12 walks to the pitching staff. First weekend, you're gonna get some of these. You're gonna have to work through it. You're gonna have to. Everything's not gonna be perfect. I'm glad some of these things haven't been perfect. Like, you don't want to go through first weekend like, damn, we struck out everybody. We gave up no runs. We didn't walk anybody, and we hit 400 on the weekend. Like, You don't really want that.
And you got to remember, too, it doesn't matter how good or how bad it was, right? It's still going to be somewhere in the middle by the time this thing's over and they get to the end of that 56 and go into the postseason. Like I already mentioned him before, but we do remember Thatcher's start last year. It wasn't as ideal. We all thought it was this old big transfer coming from UCLA off of a good portion of the year before, coming back from injury, right? You thought he would come in and just from the jump dominate. It took him a while to get going, but I think anybody in here and anybody who watched LSU play this weekend would take what you got from Thatcher at the end of the year, right?
Right.
There's plenty of time left, and you may get the same kind of a thing from Cam Johnson, but whatever you saw this weekend, it ain't as bad as whatever was bad, and it ain't gonna be as good as whatever. It's gonna be somewhere in the middle.
No doubt. And like I said, don't put too much stock into the first weekend of the season. Now, you can look at things. We can talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. We want to see better. We want to see more of. But don't just chalk it up to, this guy's not good. Like, Braswell didn't have a great weekend. Oh, he can't hit. We don't know that yet. We don't know if it was just a bad weekend, right? Milam hit .545 on the weekend. Oh, he's going to be an All-American. Yeah, I hope so. He looks great. You don't want to put too much stock into it. We're just going to talk about what we saw, right? And what we saw was the guys that you wanted to have a good start to the season had a good start to the season. Tommy White, 400 opening weekend, right? Didn't hit any homers. Had to hit some balls really hard. Today he hit a ball. He went 2 for 3 today, and the one out, he hit the ball 100 and something miles an hour right field, right on a line to the right fielder. Like, it was just –
That's when you know you're a good hitter, right? When you seemingly go under the radar and you didn't do anything great, and on the weekend, through 4 games, you're still hitting 400.
Hitting 400, right? Travinsky's hitting .571 on the weekend. So
good?
through the first 4 games of the season, hitting .571,
He looks like
that
he's
is
in
good.
mid-season form right now.
No doubt.
That
He
swing
looks
is looking
solid.
crispy.
And that's the swing that we are going to break down on his homer.
Apparently, he had an absolute tater.
It was off the scoreboard,
Okay.
and that's the swing that we're showing, and it is sexy.
Yeah, it's his. He took the 3-wood out and just went to work with
It is sexy. Jared Jones, that was another conversation, right? We want to see him get off to a good start.
And he
didn't face a lot of guys this weekend that threw hard, so they're kind of thumbing him some things. 3 homers over the weekend, right? And he's a strong guy, so he's able to get balls out maybe that weren't flushed, right? But that's what you get from him.
There's some
that's
scary
okay.
potential in that body.
Absolutely.
And, man, it's really good to see him get off to a good start. It's really good to see him get some confidence kind of going, and I know he can. Take that and ride that through the season and see where you can go with it. But there's some absolute thunder in that bat, and it's kind of scary to think what he's got the potential to do when you watch him play.
Another guy, we had him on our show, and we like him a lot, is Jake Brown. We talked about him starting the season at right field. He started today in center field. Paxton didn't get to start today. Jake Brown got to start in center field. He's hitting .600 to start the season. Went 2 for 4 today. I think he's obviously shown Jay that he's capable of doing a whole bunch of different things. You can put him in center, you can put him in right. He came in as a pitcher, remember that. Like, he was a two-way guy, but they recruited him more as a pitcher, and he kind of hit his way into the starting lineup. And so I think that's an important takeaway from this game is you may see him play some center, you may see him play some right, you may see him play some first, but you're going to see him a lot. And I think the second and maybe the bigger takeaway from Game 4 is I think LSU has their ace of the future, and that's Cade Anderson. That's the lefty freshman. And from what I've been told, in watching him today, obviously, he looked the part. Threw 4 innings, struck out 6. He did walk 3, only give up 3 hits, 1 run. He was 93 to 95 from the left side with a Clayton Kershaw-esque curveball. And so they love his makeup. They love his ability. They love what he can do. He's obviously a freshman, got the start, but they're very, very high on him. And, if he keeps going in the trajectory that I think he's going to, they think he has the ability to be the next great one to come out of LSU. Like, as a freshman, sophomore, like that guy to come in from the start and make it through, a la Aaron Nola, a la Kevin Gausman. I mean, when was the last time we had an elite left-handed starter?
I really thought you were about to say elite starter. I'm about to say
Left-handed starter.
Yeah. 6 months ago.
Yeah. Elite left-handed starter, though. That's like not just elite in college, but like, damn, this guy is like bona fide draft guy, first rounder. He has the potential to do that, which is very encouraging, right?
The other pitcher I would say that I feel like probably wowed a bunch of people or were happy to see was probably Gage
Well, that's what I'm saying on game one. That was the most impressive part of game one to me.
Yeah.
Was Gage Jump. So you could see.
You could also see probably working as a starter at some point.
What? Did you miss the first?
Yeah.
Okay, you missed the first game that we just recapped?
You mean when you were on the buttons, you really weren't listening to anything?
I was waiting for that Fidel.
Oh,
okay. Well, yeah, that's what we talked about earlier in game one.
Good.
That was the most impressive thing out of game one was Gage Jump, and that they're moving him along slowly, but you're probably going to see him in the rotation.
And now we're on to
we're on to Cade Anderson, who was in the rotation this weekend. Christian Little threw.
Yeah.
Got a name. Touched 97. Looked good. Threw at 89. He's throwing like a little bit of a cutter now. Mm-hmm. Throws an 89-mile cutter and a breaking ball. 1 1/3. Only walked 1. Struck out 1. Gave up 1. But he actually looked good. Like
they said he fell off the mound early.
I missed that.
He was warming up. I just listened to the radio.
I missed that.
Doug paints a great picture.
He does. Gavin Guidry came in, did his thing. Mm-hmm. Inning in the third, struck out 2, put him in a big situation. He looked really good. And then Justin Lohr came back in again, 1 inning, 3 punchies. And then our guy Fidel came back in to close the game in the 9th on a 4-3 game.
You know, we sit here and we talk about all these names that we've thrown out there, and we still have been remiss. We haven't said anything about Alex Milazzo, who also had a good weekend.
Yep.
We barely spoke about Nate Ackenhausen. We haven't really spoken about Riley Cooper. Like that.
Riley Cooper we won't speak about.
Well, that's true, too. I don't know why I just said that.
Well, because Nate and Riley are the same guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nate came out and threw the way he threw, and it's like, wow, okay, so the depth is still there.
Yeah.
And which we knew already, and now it's going to be really impressive to kind of see, all right, how are we going to mold this all into, I won't say roles, but kind of almost what you expect to see out there, right? Now, there's still a lot of time. It's not going to happen over the next week or the next 2 weeks, but this team is still loaded, and this team is still primed to make a very, very, very deep run, right? It should be very interesting to see this thing go forward.
Look, all three of the catchers had an opportunity to start. All 3 of the catchers threw guys out when they started.
Yeah.
Right? This is VMI likes to run. They were able to cut down 3-4 guys, maybe more than that, or
2 or 3 for sure from
on
Milazzo,
Friday. On Friday, and then
Brady Neal caught 2.
He
caught 1 off the knees.
Yeah, so the catchers controlled the running game really well. That's a credit to the pitching staff as well. But you have 3 of them back there that can do some serious damage, and hold their own, control the game, call a good game. You didn't really see many things go wrong behind the dish. So all in all, I was very encouraged by what we saw this weekend. Not going to be perfect. It's going to take some time. You don't want it to be perfect right now. You don't want to come out and, man, they're doing everything right against the teams that you're supposed to do everything right against. Like, you want to have a
little adversity,
some bumps to try to figure this thing out. Like, how do we move on? How do we get better from that? Why did it go wrong?
I would only really want it to really be perfect if you had a team that was kind of constructed like you had last year. There was a lot of veteran guys. There was a lot of guys who had been in this uniform before. There was a lot of guys who had played a lot of at-bats, a lot of innings, and been a lot of innings on the mound in this team before, and they were really, really, really – they're almost like unblemishable at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. I would want that kind of team to look like that at this point of the year.
Right.
This kind of team where there's new faces, there's young guys, there's portal guys, you got to get your feet wet. Got to kind of feel the feel around here and how you do it in this uniform, in this stadium, in this kind of pressure pack situation. And that's what you kind of saw, and that's what I kind of expected. It wasn't going to be perfect, but you got through it with 4 wins. That says something itself.
Lloyd, do you have any questions from a fan's perspective from someone who did not see any games?
I was going to ask, biggest surprise.
Because it is Ask Mikey and Mitch.
It is. We have some questions that are coming in through the hopper. But I was going to say, biggest takeaway from the weekend, if you could name, like, or maybe biggest surprise from a player that you weren't expecting, like something like that, where you're like who I guess gave you like, oh, okay, that could be somebody that you can count on.
I got Milo. Like I heard the name before. I think we all heard the name before.
It was whispers.
Yeah, you heard whispers, and I think there may be something to his stature that makes you think, oh, he won't really be able to cut it here. But when you watch that guy play, it's gonna be hard to keep that guy out of the lineup. It's gonna be hard to keep that guy out of giving you professional at bats from another position in that lineup every day. And if he can cut the mustard in the field, which I would expect he can, it's going to be really hard to keep him out the lineup. So he was one that was, for me, I needed to see it, and it's real.
And he played second for Pearson, or did they move Pearson to the outfield?
Pearson got moved to the outfield. He was in the outfield today, I believe. So he played right. Kling didn't start today, and Jake Brown started in center.
What were Kling's numbers?
I think he hit like 150 or 140 something, 143. I think he got a couple hits this weekend. Wasn't, he had a bases loaded double or runners on first and third double or something like that, 2-run double.
Made a hell of a play in the outfield.
Made a great play in the outfield.
In a tight game.
It was one weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just start like he can go 5 for 11 next weekend.
And you forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like that might be a missing piece to what, if you want or expect LSU to be able to make this back-to-back run, whatever, it feels like Kling has to kind of be a dude.
Yeah, you would think, right? Like you want him to be that. You need to have a dude in the outfield, right? Dudes in the outfield, right? And you want Paxton to be that guy because he's so talented, and I think he is going to be that guy. But Jake Brown stepping up. You have Mac Bingham, who's had a good weekend. He's the most experienced out of all the guys in the outfield. And you have Pearson, he's steady Eddie. He's going to do his thing. He didn't have a bunch of hits this weekend, but put together good at bats. You're going to have opportunities. And so, yeah, you want those guys to be able to generate runs. The offense is going to generate runs a lot differently this year than it was last year.
Yeah.
Right? Look, Jared Jones got off to a good start, 3 homers. Tommy White's going to hit his, right? Travinsky's going to get his. But you're not going to have as much home run power throughout the lineup as you did last year.
Not even just so much home run power. Like, I think this pitching staff was constructed as if we were watching like the 2010, 2011 BB Core days, and you realize, hey, if we just score 1 run, we win. Like, that's what I feel like this pitching staff was constructed as. Like, they have that kind of ability to where they can go out and blank you. Now, look, you're not going to win any games with no runs on the board, so you obviously have to score.
Newsflash.
Yeah, you got to score.
You got to score to win.
You got to score, but my point is I think that this pitching staff is going to be one that keeps you in the game so long that I'm not sure you need to have an offense that's going to go out and do basically what you saw that offense do last year, right? Like, I don't really think that that's what we're looking at. Now, obviously, it'd be great if you got that.
That was an historic offense.
It was an historic offense. It'd be great if you got that. And obviously, when you get that, there is stars, like absolute stars up and down the lineup. I'm not saying you won't have any standout players. I'm not saying any players don't have to stand out. But I do think that this pitching staff, staying healthy, gives you so much more of a chance to win, I don't know, games where runs come at a premium, games where there's only 5 runs scored, 6 runs scored, 7 runs scored. I think this pitching staff gives you that much more of a chance, and we'll see. But I would expect someone like Paxton to show up and show out. And I'm not saying that he didn't this weekend. That's not what I'm saying. I would expect someone like Paxton to get comfortable, get hot, and get absolutely rolling, and that's what I'm looking for out of him.
Because it did feel like last year with the offense that they had, it was anybody can leave at any given moment. Like, you could have 2 outs, like you get 1 guy on base, 2 guys on base, like, all right, 3-run homer. And that's kind of what they did. They would eat you alive with the big swing. This feels like they're putting pressure on you throughout the lineup, where it's you're going to see 5 or 6 people in the lineup, as opposed to 1 swing gets you there, and then 3 outs, boom, it's done.
Right.
Like, it's a lot of putting pressure on you, running.
Well, they did all of that last year, and then they just broke your back with the 3-run homer.
Yeah.
So in a way,
in
a way, you kind of got to breathe easy after they did that. I'm not sure how many of those you'll get, but you may get the bleeding single right after, which keeps another 2 runners on base. Right? So that's kind of how this thing's going to go this year. And I say bleeding single. You might get the base clearing double. You might get something. I just don't think it's going to be as many long balls as you saw last year. But this team's doing teams last year, they did the same thing, man. They put together professional at bat after professional at bat. They broke your back, and then they got up and did it again after.
Yeah.
We'll see if this one's able to do it. I don't think it'll be to the tune as the same number as homers, but I do think you're going to see a team that's going to give you professional at bat and really become hard outs up there.
Yeah. Carousel. Yeah. Like Bingham, I thought was super impressive for what he did. You knew what you were getting. What he bat 350 in his entire college career. He comes in and does the exact same thing. Like, all right, he's going to get on base. Pearson's going to get on base. Now you put in Monster, and it's like, all right, he puts the same amount of pressure on you.
You're going to get a couple guys that have the big home run numbers. You know, you would imagine Tommy, hopefully Jared Jones.
Travinsky,
but you're going to have a lot of the other guys. You may have a bunch of guys with 6 to 10 home runs, right? Like, because you're going to have a bunch of guys.
40 doubles.
Well, not 40 doubles. I mean, if you hit 40 doubles in college, you're doing something.
Good God.
I mean, you get to 20 doubles, that's good. But you're going to have a bunch of guys that are going to get opportunities to play, right? Like Brady Neal, right? He's swinging the bat really well. He looked really good this weekend, hit the grand slam. You could see him sneak 5, 6, 7, 8 home runs out there, right? You have Milam coming in. You have Pearson. I think that Bingham's going to get to double digits. I think that Jake Brown could potentially get to double digits. But, like, he's in that 6 to 10 range, right? So
it feels like everybody's a hard out.
You're going to have guys still. It's not just not – you're not going to hit 150 home runs or whatever you hit last year. It's going to look differently. You're going to score runs. But to Jared's point, the pitching staff is what makes that – feel more comfortable, right? Because you have guys out there. But back to your original question, who is a surprise? It's our guy Fidel. I mean, I saw him on the roster. I knew he was a pitcher.
Mustache.
Didn't know what to expect from him. Hadn't really asked about him. All of a sudden, he gets put in 2 really big situations, and it was lights out. And I think that's a big surprise. Sam Dutton, too.
Surprise.
He threw the two games, too.
Respectfully, too, right? You just always want to see those guys who have been here a couple of years and kind of, if you want, for lack of a better term, be buried a little bit in the depth, right? To actually, he's taken what seems to be another step, right? And if he continues to go out there and shut the door and throw up goose eggs like that, you can be like, good God, that's another one you can add into this equation as well. And like I said, it seems to be that this pitching staff is very, very, very deep and does not ask you to go out there and score 7 to 8 runs a night, which that could be very, very damaging for